everybody, welcome back to Mask of the Slasher. Today we're going to talk about a movie that I don't think it's talked about as much and not enough.
Agreed.
So today we're going to talk about the 1981 classic Dead and Buried. Whee!
Yeah!
So I'm going to give you the facts.
Jack. Once
again. Okay, so some of the stuff I found, there's inconsistencies.
Okay.
So we're going to go with a couple things here. But either way, the release date was either May 29th of 1981 or October 9th of 1981.
It's quite a big difference.
Yes, it is. And I looked on multiple sources, and it was back and forth between all of them.
Really?
And I was like, okay, maybe one is like the UK release, but that doesn't make sense because it was banned. So I don't know.
Okay.
Whatever. It was released in 1981.
Okay.
That's what matters.
That's what yeah. Indeed.
Yeah. So anyway, this movie had a $3 million budget, but unfortunately, it made 217,000 only at the box office. I've got some theories on this.
Yeah.
I read that it was only in 83 theaters throughout the United States, and on an average of only 1 week.
Oh.
And then Gene Siskel of Siskel and Ebert, we're old, go look him up.
Yeah.
But he gave it a really crappy review.
Oh.
So, and back in the day, you know, we had 5 channels. And Siskel and Ebert was always on somewhere, so you couldn't avoid them.
True.
So I'd imagine some of that is the problem.
Yeah.
So it's sad, but, you know, it is what it is. Like I said, it was initially banned in the UK. It was considered a video nasty movie.
Right.
Some have argued that it really shouldn't have been, but they kind of just were all willy-nilly about what they chose to put on that list.
Right.
But it was re-released uncut in 2004 in the UK, so they got it.
They got it.
They got it. So we're going to go through a bunch of little things. The one main character that we want to mention, because he's a childhood classic buddy, is
Grandpa Joe.
Grandpa Joe. Also known as Jack Albertson.
Yes.
He is the coroner / mortician, because that is used interchangeably in the movie.
Right.
So yeah, I didn't recognize him because he had lost so much weight. And unfortunately, he died about 6 months after the film was released.
Oh, really?
On your birthday.
Oh, really?
Sorry.
That's a bummer.
Sorry, yeah. But, yeah. All the other people, you know,
Yeah,
except for Robert Englund.
Oh, yeah,
Robert Englund's in it, so, you know.
But, yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the problem with this movie is it doesn't really have any big names in it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Robert Englund wasn't a big name yet at that point.
No, because Nightmare on Elm Street was 1984, so he probably wasn't even cast until 83.
Right.
So he was a nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
At that time. So he was a handsome gentleman back in his younger days, though.
He was.
Yeah. Still kind of weird looking.
Yeah.
But either way.
So the movie starts off on the beach with a photographer named George who also goes by the name Freddie. He's taking pretty terrible photos of stuff on the beach. Not particularly good, in my opinion.
Couldn't make a lot of money off of those,
I
really.
think so. And he stumbles upon this young lady. They start flirting. She takes her top off, as is often the case in 80s horror movies. And then the townsfolk descend upon them, and they kill off George / Freddie. Well, they set him on fire and think he's dead. They set it up to look like a car accident. They set his van on fire as well. But he's still alive.
Yes. I want to mention, I'm going to go through and mention stuff about special effects and whatever as we go through this storyline, just to mix it up.
Yes.
Getting crazy. So this particular death in this movie is so gruesome in a sense that he is basically bound to a pole on the beach, and they like taking pictures of everybody that they're killing. And I will explain later why.
Yeah.
But they put a fishing net over him to hold him to that pole. So his face is all squished against it. It's kind of funny looking, really, but it's squished against it. And then they set him on fire, so he can't go anywhere.
Right.
Sheriff has to go and investigate.
Yes.
And when the coroner / mortician shows up, they go lean down because he's in a Volkswagen bus upside down, which was really sad because I was like, that was done. That was done after they did that. But anyway, they go look and they see and they think he's dead, and all of a sudden just it's crazy looking, and he is. I can't even.
Mess.
It's a hot mess, literally and figuratively. So anyway, the sheriff starts to investigate, and as he's in the process of doing so, several more mysterious deaths occur. But these deaths occur, and then these people start showing up in the town with different identities.
Yes. Very much alive.
Very much.
And showing with different identities.
Well, and the sheriff, as he's investigating, because the very first place that he goes to start digging is the hotel, the only hotel in town, to find out who this dude was. And, and coincidentally, they just did not keep track of those things. Just didn't think it was necessary. Names, driver's license, nothing.
But the hotel owner let slip that the sheriff's wife had come to visit this guy at some point. Oh, snap.
Maybe he was taking pictures of her boobies.
Maybe. He could have been.
He liked boobies.
Hard to say.
Yeah. After we find out that somehow his wife is involved in this, he becomes kind of skeptical. She's a school teacher, and she's kind of funny looking in my opinion, but that's beside the point. But yes, the deaths start happening through the town, which the sheriff is like, what the hell is happening?
Right.
First there was an old drunk dude.
Yeah.
I don't even know what he did. I think he was from the town. And I think maybe they're just like, this guy's worthless.
That might be.
The next was a small family. Now, we need to discuss the small family situation.
Yeah.
So this small family is a mother and father and a young boy who's probably like 5, 6, something like that.
Yeah.
And they're just dumb as a bag of rocks.
Oh, God, yes.
And they go into a diner to get directions and to get gas. And that's when we see Freddie.
Yeah. A.K.A. George.
A.K.A. George. And we see that he is now a gas attendant and no longer George.
Right.
So they get their information, whatever, and they leave. And then something apparently runs out into the road and they slam on the brakes. This stupid kid, he's not wearing a seatbelt.
Yeah.
And he goes barreling forward and smacks his head on the back of the seats. And seats were big and heavy back then. And I've hit one of those before. But anyway, so they're like, oh, God, we're all it's horrible. And I'm like, just go. I don't.
Yeah.
The kid just smacked his head. Who cares? You know, he already has brain damage. Anyway, so they go into this house looking for an ice pack because that was crucial.
Right, and they just walk in like they don't think anybody's home, and yet they just waltz right into this house, which I think is so funny that this happens in horror movies.
Well, yeah, because it
pretty frequently. It happened in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which we
Children
just
of
talked
the
about.
Corn.
Children of the Corn, exactly.
Stop going into people's
just
houses.
wandering into other people's houses. I'm like, man, no.
Well, and then what's even more stupid...
I don't care if it was the 80s.
No. Even more stupid is that the wife's just having a spaz attack, and she says, maybe we need to find if there's a fuse out or something. Who gives a shit? It's not your house.
Get out of there.
Yeah. But he's like, okay, I'll go down to the basement. Begrudgingly, he goes down and to check the fuse in a house that is not his.
Yeah.
It's just getting weird. Anyway, townspeople show up, of course, and start breaking through the windows despite the fact that everything's unlocked.
Right.
Dramatic.
Exactly.
Stuff,
it's a little more, scarier that way.
Scarier. And the family, they are able to run to their car. Of course, there was the delay in starting.
Yes.
Because we can't have a horror movie where cars start automatically, ever. Everybody needs to replace their starter at some point. So anyway, they finally get the car to go, whatever, and these people are coming after him. This lady jumps on the hood and is trying to break the glass. And then we just see him driving away.
Right.
And so we're like, oh,
they got
thank
away.
God. Yeah. And I want to know why in movies back then that we needed to have the tires squealing.
Oh, I know.
The entire
Yeah.
time. This is not, unless they have a timing belt off.
Right.
There is no reason for those tires to squeal in any way. Nothing. No noise should be made. But that's beside the point.
Right.
So, then the car shows up.
Right.
In the beach area.
Yeah.
It has seaweed on it.
Robert Englund pulls it out of the ocean with his tow truck, supposedly.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, you know. But why does it have seaweed on it?
To show that it's been in the ocean.
Apparently,
back then, everything that got pulled out of the ocean had to have at least one little vine worth of kelp or seaweed or whatever on it, you know.
I'm like, why isn't there like a puffer fish rolling around on it or something else? It was really weird. So in this particular death scene, we don't see the death, and I would imagine it's because there was a child involved.
Right.
So they did have some standards back then.
And we're okay with it because they were pretty dumb and
yeah.
like the drunk guy really probably didn't deserve to get killed. He was just stumbling around drunk. George, he was just trying to get some pootie tang, you know.
Yeah.
He was pretty innocent.
He was. Well, and
these guys, they were just
the family was
dumb as all hell.
Yeah. But you notice, like, remember in Halloween 3, drunk guy
that's
gets
true.
killed.
That's true.
People are just often drunk people.
Yeah, that's true.
Just like out of the town drunk.
The town drunk does get killed fairly often.
Yeah. Can't blame them. Next, the next death, I guess, whatever.
Yeah.
The next one is the hitchhiker.
Yeah.
And now this is a weird transaction.
Yes.
So chick is on the side of the road and some old dude pulls over and he's just saying some weird crap to her.
It's like, how do you know I'm not a dirty old man? Stuff like that. I'm like, well,
red flag,
are you saying you are, sir?
Because
maybe
But she still gets in the car. Now I want to bring it back to The Fog when Jamie Lee Curtis, she asks him, "Are you weird?" What kind of stupid question is that? Don't hitchhike, folks. It never works out. She dies.
Yeah.
And they made it look like she had been hit by a vehicle when in fact she had been pummeled to death.
Right, with a rock,
Yeah. Rocks. Visitor Q.
Yeah.
So then the next one that we see is the doctor.
Right.
Now, as all of this is going through, though, the sheriff is trying to
solve what's going on.
Yeah, and he's just like, what the hell is happening?
He's befuddled.
Befuddled, yes, that's a good word. And people are just kind of blowing it off like it's no big whoop because, we all know that the townspeople are in on it because we start to see them and the music gets dramatic once you see them and you go, oh, that's the same one. Oh, God. So, it gets all dramatic and then we know, in case we're dumb, that's what's happening. But his wife, like I mentioned earlier, she is a school teacher. And so when he's doing this investigating, trying to figure out how much of a trollop his wife is.
Right.
There's a couple things that are some interesting situations. One, he finds a book of witchcraft in one of her drawers.
Right.
Which, why would you leave that around anyway. But yeah, and so it starts going, oh, something's not right, you know. And then the other one is that she said, oh, can you drop off this film to be developed? And it was like a little tiny reel. It wasn't still pictures. So I'm like, what?
Well, she said it was the kids' project. Like, kids are making films at that age.
That's what I'm saying.
And also, he stumbles upon her lecturing them about voodoo.
Yes.
No one's seen.
Like, in depth.
Yeah.
Stuff you wouldn't teach school
Not
children.
Not something you teach a little kid, no.
No. So it starts going, oh, something is happening.
Yeah.
Also, the coroner, he's a very peculiar man.
Yes.
He keeps talking about his craft and how annoyed he is that people are doing closed casket because he doesn't get to show his techniques and whatever. So you start to go, there's something not right about this man. He's a little too calm about the situation at hand,
Yeah.
and almost just seems glad to be getting dead bodies.
Yes.
So, the doctor comes into play
Yes.
when the sheriff, he hits Freddie,
Yeah.
and his arm gets stuck in the truck,
Right.
and it's still moving, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I would just run at that point. I'd be like, something's awry here.
Right.
And so he gets some of the particles of flesh or something
Yeah.
off the truck, and the doctor's looking at it, and blah, 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 blah.
Right. He says
And-
this guy's been dead for however long, and he's like,
Exactly.
no, I hit the guy last night or whatever.
Exactly. So, and he's discussing this at the hospital.
Right.
The doctor eventually gets killed by having acid shot up his sinuses and
Yeah.
his face melted. And I have to say that was probably one of the worst effects
Yeah.
I've ever seen. He looked like a crash test dummy.
Yeah, not the greatest. Yeah.
So, anyway, the sheriff eventually finds out what's happening.
Yes.
That the mortician, coroner, whatever you want to call him, that he is having these people killed so he can reconstruct and reanimate them.
Yes.
And so because at first I was like, well, it's kind of stupid that they're like ruining these people, because I'm like, that's an easy thing, you just reanimate them,
Right.
you know. But no, he wanted to use his mad skills. So they just jacked up everybody
Yeah.
so he can make them look good again.
Right.
Like, well, he was pretty skillful.
Yeah. Yeah, he
He was pretty
was.
skillful. And there is a very good scene of a time lapse of a face being reconstructed,
Yeah.
and it's the hitchhiker
Right.
who has a weird nose.
She does.
I looked at her again, like at when she was alive. I don't feel like her nose was turned up that much originally. I feel like his skills need some working on. That's what I'm saying. So the sheriff is starting to figure this out,
Right.
and then comes across the fact that his wife
Yes, is one of them.
is one of them. One of us.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, is one of them, and then he discovers that he's one of them.
Yes. Plot twist.
Oh, shit! So, anyway, I'm going to give it to Josh. We're going
Yes.
to talk about Stan Winston here.
Ah, yes.
And a couple different things. Go ahead.
The goddamn mighty Stan Winston. Let's talk about him. Stan Winston, if you don't know, did effects for Jurassic Park. He did effects for Predator. He did effects for Aliens, Terminator. Basically, Stan Winston is responsible for me having a fantastic childhood in many respects, quite frankly.
Yes.
And not only did he do the effects for those movies, he also directed one of my favorite horror movies, Pumpkinhead. So, yes, Stan
Pumpkinhead.
Winston is fantastic. Was fantastic. R.I.P., buddy.
Some fun facts about Stan Winston. He graduated from the University of Virginia majoring in painting and sculpture. He moved to Hollywood to be an actor but couldn't find any work. So instead, he became a comedian.
Oh,
And he was also an apprentice at Walt Disney Studios. So he had a good start,
Yeah.
technically speaking, you know. The other thing that I saw that he worked on, this was interesting, was The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing. And what it came down to was that the man that was working on this, as for special effects, Ron Botten, I guess is how you pronounce it, he was burnt out. He was burnt out, and he was like, bro, can you come help me? I can't do this anymore. John Carpenter is needy. He wants this weird head on a crab looking thing, and so anyway, yeah, he did help out with that.
okay.
Okay, but going back to the nurse.
Yes.
So this is really cool. So when the nurse goes into the room where Freddy is, where he is completely bandaged up, all you see is one eye
Yeah.
and
a
his
little bit of
weird
his
teeth.
mouth, yeah.
And the doctor and the sheriff are out in the hallway discussing things, you know, which was very convenient. And she comes in, and it starts freaking him out because
She's the gal that he was flirting with on the beach.
she's boobies.
Yeah.
She's a booby lady. So
Yes.
he's like, oh, shit, you know, but he
Yeah.
can't say that because he doesn't have any lips left.
Right.
But, yeah, so she goes in, and she stabs him in the eye with a syringe.
Yes.
A very large syringe because this was the 80s.
Right.
But, yeah, nevertheless, a syringe. So I learned that I can't talk. So I learned that this was basically an animatronic.
Wow.
And it does not look like an animatronic.
No.
I tried to pay attention. I watched it again to see how obvious it was. The only thing I saw was like the mouth kind of looked a little weird with the teeth and stuff.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the part that you could see of his eye looked very real. I mean, it wasn't any sort of, Fulci real, but it still was. It looked really real.
Oh, wow, that's really cool. Because when we first watched it, I just assumed it was prosthetic, so maybe that's why his mouth looked a little weird.
Yeah,
so that's cool.
I know. I didn't know until I read it. I was like, well, holy shit.
Wow.
So, the kill scenes with all of this with Stan Winston, they are very convincing.
Oh yeah.
Very real looking. He just does an amazing job of his effects to where you do cringe. You do go, and they're creative. Each one of them, how they die, is done with a different method.
Right.
And I think that's pretty cool. The idea of the acid is actually really cool. Brings me back to the Beyond. And it's kind of funny because he's like, no, that's acid. So we had to mention what it was because it didn't say acid on it like it did in the Beyond. So, yeah. But, I mean, all of them looked really good. The hitchhiker looked amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, it actually looked kind of realistic, like he saw crime photos. And was like, well, this is what somebody looks like when they get mowed over, and it was pretty damn good.
It was.
So I think that was a big thing that won me over with this was the effects.
Oh, yeah.
If you have corny effects or corny anything like that, I'm not going to want to watch it. We tried to watch the Midnight Meat Train the other day.
Yeah.
To cover it for this channel.
It for the channel,
yeah. And nope.
Nope.
It's not happening. It took, I think, maybe 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
The first scene where there's somebody getting killed on the...
Yeah.
And it's the worst CGI I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And I don't care when it came out. It looked like somebody used Print Shop, and printed it out on a dot matrix and then was like, oh, look at this go in the air.
It's terrible.
It was bad. We didn't originally see this until like maybe a year or so ago.
Yeah. It's one of those I'd always heard about, and I know I'd seen that cover before in like the video store when I was a kid and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd never had a chance to check it out. So
yeah, and the artwork always intrigued me. It was different from anything else you'd see. And I did learn that the artist, all I can remember, I think his first name was Dario as well. But he also did the artwork for Paramount Pictures. When you see the mountain and all that, that's him. Same dude. So and I think he's still alive. I don't know. I could be wrong. Who knows? But either way, I wanted to see if he did any other artwork for any other movies, and I couldn't find where he had.
Oh.
But I was like, well, it's rad.
Yeah.
And I want the shirt.
Yeah, great cover.
Yeah. Only the good ones do we buy shirts for.
Yeah.
So, it's our standards.
That's right.
So, anyway, now we're going to go into the educational part of this.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, as we discussed, all the special effects makeup, one thing I learned in all these little factoids when I was looking everything up was that the director did not want the color red used anywhere in this movie except for blood. And it was a way to shock people.
Right.
Well, this morning when I couldn't sleep and I was awake at 4:30, I decided to go into a deep dive into what is called color theory. Okay. It's something that I had learned about after watching Breaking Bad. That's probably one of the most popular ways you're going to see it, is because all the characters in there have their own color theme, and it's fairly obvious in there. So if you want to see what I'm talking about, go watch one of those. Also Kill Bill. I mean, artists and movie makers have been using this for a very long time. So it's just more obvious in some ways than others.
Right.
So I'm going to give you some history.
Okay.
Some history on this. In 1704, Isaac Newton put out the book called Optics. And this was after he reflected light through a prism. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, he published The Theory of Color, and it is something that artists have adopted, and physical artists, painters and that kind of thing, as well as visual artists. So we see it a lot in our movies and TV, and it does bring out emotions in us in one way or the other. And with not using the color red until the kill scenes in Dead and Buried, it's a way to shock you. Pay attention to the movies you watch, because you will see things like this. And like I said, I just thought that this fact stood out so far, because usually when you watch slasher movies or anything from the 80s, there wasn't a lot of thought in some of this stuff. Color theory, I can't really pull one out that I'm just like,
I would say Freddy's sweater, and one of the things we talked about, they deliberately picked those green and red because of how they went together. It kind of was uncomfortable to look at,
Well, and it's Christmas colors. Yeah. We associate it with Christmas, and it was a Christmas sweater, I think, is what they said. And it brings new interest to the movie, because of course we already liked this movie, but having to once again do this research and then learning about color theory in a little more in depth than what I already knew, it was like, oh, well, that's pretty interesting. So now I'm always going to be looking for it.
Right.
And he's probably going to get tired of me being like, hey, look, there's blue. There's a lot of blue in this movie. So, I don't know. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It is pretty cool. So, that's my my dorky facts for today. But what are your thoughts on the movie as a whole?
I like this movie a lot. I feel like it's kind of a hidden gem, to be honest with you. Maybe people that are more in the know, already sing its praises. But I feel like it's a movie that doesn't get talked about a lot. Obviously, I hadn't seen it. We hadn't seen it till about a year or so ago. And I think, the effects are great. Of course, Stan Winston is just masterful in that respect. I really like the simplicity of the plot. Mm-hmm. It just makes it kind of a fun, quick watch, I think.
Yeah.
All the performances are, pretty good.
Yeah, they're not
as
terrible.
Far as the acting, there's nothing really egregiously bad in it, I don't think.
I don't feel like there was. Otherwise, I'd be like, God, this guy sucks.
Grandpa Joe is surprising as a villain. He really kind of hams it up, and does a good job of it, just a classic movie villain, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, it's pretty cool. I think it's a movie that if you haven't seen, you definitely should, because it was definitely a hidden gem for us, and I think that's probably the case for a lot of people on this one.
Absolutely. I mean, when doing this research, I actually did not find a lot of articles about this or videos already covering it, things like that. And I'm like, people are missing out.
Yeah.
Because there's just some garbage out there that people just keep going back to. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, but there's more. There's more.
Exactly.
And the only reason we came across this is because since the beginning of the pandemic and us being stuck at home, we streamed and watched a lot of movies.
Yeah, oh yeah.
A lot. And so we're at that point where we're like, we need something new. We're just tired of seeing the same stuff. Yes. And, it's been 5 years or something of this. It's a lot. So we finally were like, let's check it out. Let's just see. And this is usually what we do is we'll go, if it sucks, we turn it off.
Yeah.
I mean, Midnight Meat Train.
That's right, yeah.
So, and you're always hoping it's going to be good, but this movie had no real major details to it. The cover work or artwork was not obvious in any way.
Right.
There is something in there, though, that I think is interesting. I think that this movie, technically speaking, is a zombie movie.
Yeah. In a sense, yeah, for sure.
So the artwork of it kind of reminds me of George Romero's movie, and so that in that respect, yes. I mean, these people are being reanimated as something else, and because I was thinking about it when the family was running back out to their car, everybody moved really slow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's very zombie-esque to do that, and it always irritated me in movies. And I'm like, you want to catch somebody, go after
Yeah.
them. But then there's the one aggressive who stays on the hood, you know.
Right.
She was the crazy one.
It's a pretty unique take on zombies, especially for, what was it, 1981, did you say? I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that they're able to, they basically look just like they did when they were alive, and they're able to communicate and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's very different from Romero zombies back then, you know. So.
Absolutely. Well, and the only time you really figure things out that they're zombies or that they're not who they say they are, is that their skin starts peeling off. And it's what it is because morticians use a type of wax to reconstruct things in the face or in the hands, you know, if there's chunks missing,
Right.
they use it to build back up.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of stuff that's just falling off of them. And it's like, once again, why did you go and, you know, beat the crap out of these people? You could have had it pretty easy.
Yeah.
And I did wanted to say something about the pictures. So at first I was like, they're just trying to startle people with the flash.
Yeah.
But then I was like, no. They're taking the
It's for
pictures,
reference.
for reference for later on for the mortician who's lazy, doesn't even do his own dirty work in any way.
That's true.
I don't know what these people are getting out of it, except he's.
Well, I think they're
You
just
know?
kind of his slaves at that point, you know.
Yeah.
I think they're just kind of like,
Well, and they're dependent on him
Yeah.
keeping them alive
Yeah.
and not falling apart.
yeah, I think they're just kind of just like sentient enough to like get along through their daily activities and do his bidding, and that's probably about it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a town stuck in another time.
Yeah.
And with an old-fashioned diner and an old-fashioned gas station.
Yeah.
Things like this did not really exist, you know. Once again, though, gas station.
Yeah, right.
Another freaking gas station.
Always at the gas station in
Yeah,
these horror
'cause
movies.
They were just going through town. Everything was fine. Had to stop and get some gas, and shit
Yeah,
hits the fan.
Exactly.
Gas stations, they're evil.
They are.
They are. They're just horrible.
right.
So, anyway, have you seen it? Do you like it? If you haven't seen it, well, you probably just had it all ruined for you.
Yeah, we'll have to put a spoiler alert at
yeah,
the
we're
beginning of this one.
Yeah. But
sure.
if you haven't seen it, go and, you know, I hope you've already turned it off at this point and you come back to us.
Yeah.
And you finally saw it and you come and say, you know what? I think that this movie is the most fantastic movie I have ever seen, and I'm so glad that Krista and Josh introduced me to this movie.
Yeah.
And we'll be like, you are very welcome.
You are welcome.
Bless you, child.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So, anyway, I think that's it.
Yeah.
I definitely go see it. We watched it on Tubi, so free.
Tubi's got a lot of good movies on
They
it,
really
folks.
do. They
Don't
really
sleep
do.
on Tubi, guys.
No.
There's commercials, sure, but for the amount of things they have, I think it's worth it to sit through a few commercials.
I think so. And you know, back in the day, that was the PB break time.
That's how we grew up, was commercials, unless it was HBO or
Yeah.
Skinamax or Showtime. You had to,
Skinamax.
Yeah.
That's what Josh was watching.
What teenage boy that era didn't watch Skinamax?
See, he totally did.
Let's be real here. There is only one reason to watch Cinemax. If you're a teenage boy.
Yeah, he was. Or sometimes if you don't have it and it's scrambled and you're just hoping for a nipple to come across. That was Josh back in the days. Just watching fuzzy boobs. Anyway, we'll be back next week. So
Yes.
please like and subscribe to our channel. We would appreciate it.
Indeed.
Give us comments. Let us engage with you.
Yes.
What did you think about the color theory thing?
Yeah.
Did I blow your frickin' mind today?
I had no idea.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, I knew that, you know, a lot of times films or whatever would associate specific colors with specific characters, but I didn't know there was like all this rigmarole surrounding it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
It is. It's a lot of rigmarole, as Josh said. Not a word used enough these
right.
days. All of us have heard of Isaac Newton.
Just invent Fig Newtons, y'all.
No, not just Fig Newtons. And he should have been
He
killed.
didn't. He didn't invent Fig Newtons.
No, but
that was his brother Fig. Invented the Fig Newton.
You're so dumb. Tell him about your lizard.
Oh yeah. Well, no, it was a newt.
Oh, it was a newt.
Newt. His
Sorry.
name was Fig. Fig Newt.
Did he discover
great.
color
He
at
may
any
have.
point?
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.